We are finally out of being in a board breaker format like we were for pretty much the past 2 years, but at what cost? Because now we've got a $1,400 to $1,500 meta deck running around. Let's talk about it, shall we? That'll burn a hole in your pocket. You thought Snake Eye Azamina and all that was expensive at $1,000? Nah, Sugar Boo Bear. Try $1,500, almost $2,000. You could buy a used car in the States for that much. Let's dive on into it, shall we? 3, 2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is your host with the most, AvrielR32 here, and destroy the ever-living boo-boo brown stain off of that like and subscribe button, because you're going to be making a big old boo-boo stain when you go out and spend $1,400 on Fiendsmith Rizal. But all jokes aside, I really do appreciate all the love and support. We're like 40 subs away from 1,600. We're at like 1,558. So really appreciate all the love and support, y'all, truly. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. Hope you enjoy and stay. Be sure to grab yourself a diaper so that you don't be past the 1 minute mark crapping all over the venue floor when you get hand trapped while trying to play your $1,500 deck. So let's just dive on into it. I want to talk about the format. I've been doing a lot of testing, yes, with Fiendsmith Rizal, but also some other stuff like Out of Supreme Darkness. I've been messing around with the Argastar Trap Monster archetype, which can play 15 hand traps, and it's a shifter deck. Like, it's actually really cool. Like, I'm not even capping on that, whatever that means. I guess someone forgot to put a capital letter in their name, whatever. But all jokes aside, I've been doing a lot of testing this format, and something that I've come to realize with this format is that this isn't a board breaker format. I know. Shocker. It's crazy. Now, I'm sure, like, immediately a bunch of y'all are going to go to the comments and say, Avery, what are you talking about? You just said there's a $1,500 deck in the format, blah, 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 blah. Calm your titties and relax your anus and hear me out. Yes, there's like a $1,400 to $1,500 deck when you do the math in the format. We'll talk about that. I want to talk about the decks as a whole, because this is something that Joshua Schmidt talked about when he played Fiendsmith Kashtira right before Crossover Breakers came out. And what's really interesting, even looking at Rizal, Malice to much lesser extent because it is a Dimension Shifter the deck, Cyber's combo, Mathmech 2.0 deck, right? But outside of Malice being the combo deck of the format, the other meta decks, and by other meta decks I mean Fiendsmith Kashtira and Rizal, they're basically just control decks. And I would go as far as to say that they're basically stun decks, but without the typical stun cards like Fossil Dyna, Inspector Board, or whatever, because it just does it better. You know, you look at Zodiac Dryden, that is a multi-pop monster and it's banned for a reason, and then Konami's like, you know what? Let's do that again, but let's give it to Rizal and have it be generic 2+ level 4 monsters, 2 or more level 4s. It's literally like Dryden went to college, got his degree, or university for all y'all in the UK, got his degree in 5 months, came out, had a baby mama, and made this thing. Rizal might as well be called Dryden, not even Detonator. But as broken as this deck is, and as expensive as it can be, if you decide to play the Fiendsmith engine, even though you can play it pure, but Fiendsmith seems to be the better version, all that semantics aside, the deck is basically a control deck. You know, when you look at like the pure Rizal builds, most builds, like most turn 1 boards, are either ending, again, matchup dependent, but are either ending on Detonator plus Baguska or Detonator plus Abyss Dweller. Or for whatever reason, Duo Drive plus Detonator, I guess, because they've got Rizal Cross on the field and they want to keep the Duo Drive on the board because, I don't know, maybe they're not playing fucking plug-in. Besides the point. Semantics, I know. But think about what I just said. Is Baguska plus Detonator broken? No. I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong. Like, you do that in the mirror match and the other Rizal players crapping all over the venue floor because you ain't, because you came prepared with your adult Space Marine diaper. But that board in of itself isn't broken. Like, a Kaiju outs the Detonator. Lava Golem outs the whole board in that example. Like, that's amazing. Like, golf clap for Konami that, like, we don't have to be looking at, like, Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, Apollosa, Borreload Savage, Baron, a Floodgate in the back row, like an anti-spell, or Skill Drain, like whatever. Obviously, I just mentioned Omni Negates that are banned, but you get the point that I'm trying to make. We don't have a deck that does that outside of, like, niche decks, like a 60-card Tier Element Horus, like, Kashtira deck that, like, I think top 8 at a regional or something that I saw the other day. Outside of niche things like that, that are honestly more like Tier 2 to Rogue, there's really not a whole lot of combo-heavy, I'm going to go burr, can you break my board, if not go to game 2 decks. Like, Runic Stun is not combo. It's very rogue, and I would argue that Runic got worse because of Detonator, which brings me to my next point. But when you look at the decks in the format, they're not super insane board wise. Even Joshua Schmidt talked about that when he played Fiendsmith Kashtira. He said, if you just let the deck play, if you don't have like any hand traps, you just brick on engine, right? At most, they're going to go like, say, Unicorn, get Birth. If they have Fiendsmith cards in hand, they're going to do full Fiendsmith engine or Fiendsmith combo. And then their end board's Unicorn plus Birth. Maybe they'll banish 3 cards out of your graveyard. Most likely not. So Unicorn, Wave Hiking, and maybe if they're lucky, 2 to 3 hand traps. The hand traps are pretty good depending on what they have. I mean, if it's like, Mulch Army, Nib, and Ash. I mean, they can't use the Mulch Army because they have a board. So they're basically just down to Nib and Ash. So all you got to do is play through the monsters. So when you look at what options you have to play against these decks, you've got things like Dark Ruler, Droplets, Chalice to a lesser extent. Xyz Encore is also a really funny one because the OCG's been playing that shit. You can go Xyz Encore, target the Detonator, that shit bounce back, they get their bodies, and then you're just like, okay, cool, your Detonator is outed. Or Metal Tronus, Ultimate Slayer, and Ultimate Slayer is a normal spell, so you can thrust into that shit. Like, that's crazy, and it outs the board. Like, it's nuts. So I'm really happy, honestly, with how this format is playing out. Like, yes, we still have combo decks like Malice that are really good. Shifter needs to be banned. Hand traps do need to be limited in some way. I'm sure some people are going to say, Avery, you made a video talking about that. And yes, they need to be pulled back in some way. Having decks that play 18 to 20 hand traps is fucking bananas. Like, that should not be a thing. But the fact that we are now in a more grindy-esque meta is really nice. Like, you can lose the dice roll as even, let's take something more rogue. Like, let's just say Tempai. You could lose the die roll as a Tempai player and, like, be forced to go first, and you can probably still win, depending on how you tech your deck out. You could be playing something even more rogue, like Runic, or insert whatever deck name here, Vanquish Soul even though the deck is dog shit, but I mean, it's rogue, and it's a point that I'm trying to make. Or Salad, that might even be the better example. If you build your deck correctly, if you're piloting it correctly, even if you lose that die roll and are forced to go second, you have a very good chance of winning. I mean, especially if the Rizal player, which this happens more often than you think, at least in my experience, they summon Ice Rizal, you imperm that shit, set an imperm, pass. You gonna finish that pizza? No? Okay, well then let me play. And then at that point, you're like, okay, maybe I'm playing through 3 or 4 hand traps. As long as I can run over the Ice Rizal so that they don't have the body, I guess I'm just ending on a Little Knight. Or if it's a Rizal mirror, you just make a fucking Detonator and you're happy. Like, it's honestly really nice. And I know I keep saying that, but for like 2-3 years now, we've been in this break my board scenario meta where, like, if you don't open up enough hand traps, your cheeks are getting clapped. And so going on to my next point, the one issue I do have with this format, where it's nice if you squint hard enough and you look not to this side where there's a $1,500 deck breathing down your throat wanting to whisper car warranty extensions in your ear. Besides that, it's nice. However, Detonator does put a massive amount of pressure on the format as a whole. It honestly makes things like Runic Stun damn near unplayable, right? Because think about it from this perspective. Like, let's say that there's a 3 material aggregator, Detonator, almost called it fucking Dryden again. Let's say there's a 3 material Detonator on the field. One of the materials is an aggregator. If you're the Runic player, like, let's say you go activate Runic Fountain, chain the Detonator, detach to pop the fountain. Let's say you chain Runic Droplets and you say, I'm going to summon a body. Okay, chain the Detonator again, detach to still pop the fountain. And at that point, you're up the shit's creek, and your paddle is the Duo Drive and Detonator that are going to paddle you on the behind next turn. Like, that's what it is. Because then at that point, you're like, what are you going to do? You're going to go Gary, get back the fountain. You're going to go fountain again, and then they're going to, like, do the Detonator a 3rd time in a row and pop the fountain. Like, if they do that, okay, you've played through the 3 interruptions, but one of them's an aggregator, so they could just negate the fountain at that point. And if you don't have a fountain, then you're still crapping all over the venue floor. So I don't like it from that perspective, that Detonator is so much of a thing, one card that you have to plan for when building your deck when it comes to this format. Now, the similar side of the coin to go with that is the price. The fact that right now, at the time of making this video, Fiendsmith Rizal is $1,400 to $1,500. Mulch Army Flawlesses did go down by about $30. They are, at least when I checked yesterday, they were $100 a piece. They dropped down by $30 when the reprint in Quarter Century Stampede got announced that Flawless was going to be in there. Perulias are still around like the 80 to 90 range. It would be nice if Perulia's in the set, but we got to wait and see. And so that did drop the price a little bit, but I mean, you're saving $90 on a play set of a card that you're still paying $300 for. So basically, you went from paying $400 for a play set to now $300 for a play set. That's still not good because you still need that for pretty much any deck that you're going to play. Even if you wanted to play like something really off the wall, like whether it's Salad, Vanquished Soul, Heroes, Runic. Like, you need Flawless in some capacity, whether it's in your main or your side, because the card's just that good. And so, having that have to be an option or to be an item in the format is really bad. It's nice, though, on the play devil's advocate with that point, it's nice that we have other options, whether it's Centurion or insert your deck name here, that you can play and still see success. Are you going to get clapped from time to time against Fiendsmith Rizal, especially like if you don't have Flawlesses or Perulias and you're just relying on a lot of different cards that are maybe suboptimal? Yeah, it's going to happen. But if you just want to play at locals, I mean, then that's fine. It's not like you're trying to go to a YCS and win or top the event or whatever. And the other thing to keep in mind too, and I'll end on this, I know I've been kind of going on for a little bit, but I've just got all this in my brain. Keep in mind, too, that February, 14th, because it got delayed like 12 days after the YCS in Orlando, we get the Blue Eye Structure deck. That deck's pretty cheap. Yes, you could play Mulch Armies, but that goes for any deck. All you need is the Primite cards, which Primite Another Barrel, assuming the name doesn't get changed, is going to be in Supreme Darkness. Guarantee that card's going to be cheap. No shot that they make that thing a secret rare. And then as long as you got the Lordly Load, that stupid name, and the Drill Beam and all that from the previous set, congratulations, go buy 3 structure decks and go play Blue Eyes. That's what I'm doing once the structure deck comes out. That's the only deck I really want to play because I don't really care to play Rizal. But I kind of have to play it because I'm going to the YCS and I don't want to get clapped by every pro player in the game who just slops on Konami and just buys up product, or they let their sponsors buy it for them and they can't be bothered. Yeah, it's kind of a dumpster fire in that regard. But guys, let me know what you think about all this. I'm really happy with this format. Could the price be better? Absolutely. But would I rather play in this format compared to last format or the format before? Yes. So, guys, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.